You know that feeling when you finally learn the scientific explanation for something super creepy, and instead of being relieved, you're just more unsettled. It's like finding out ghosts aren't real, but the noise you heard was just the sound of your own brain glitching. Is that better? I'm not so sure. Today, we're looking at those exact kinds of solutions with some truly scary mysteries solved by science, thanks, I guess. Let's get right into it. Number 8 is the spontaneous head bomb, or as the professionals call it, exploding head syndrome. Imagine you're just drifting off into a nice, peaceful sleep. The day is done, your worries are fading, and your mind is finally powering down. Then, with absolutely no warning, bam, a sound like a gunshot, a cymbal crash, or a bomb detonating goes off directly inside your skull. It's so loud and violent you might sit bolt upright, convinced a car has just crashed through your bedroom wall or that you're having a catastrophic aneurysm. You're terrified, your heart is pounding, but everything is silent. Nothing happened. Welcome to one of the weirdest, most jarring experiences your brain can randomly decide to give you. Exploding head syndrome is a type of auditory hallucination. It's not a real sound in the outside world. It's a phantom noise generated entirely by your brain. Scientists believe it happens during the transition from wakefulness to sleep, when your brain is supposed to be shutting down its operations in an orderly fashion. Instead, a group of neurons in your brainstem, the ones responsible for processing sound, misfire. Instead of powering down gracefully, they all decide to scream at once, creating a massive, instantaneous burst of neural activity that your brain interprets as an impossibly loud noise. It's basically your brain's sound card crashing as the system tries to enter sleep mode. It's the neurological equivalent of an entire orchestra, after a beautiful, quiet performance, suddenly deciding to play one final, chaotic, deafening note for no reason at all. There's no pain, and it's considered completely harmless. But harmless feels like a bit of an understatement when you're lying in bed at 2 a.m., convinced your head has just served as the epicenter for a small explosion. So no, it wasn't a ghost slamming a door or a sign of impending doom. It was just your brain forgetting how to be quiet for a second. You're haunted by your own faulty wiring. Number 7, let's talk about everyone's favorite uninvited guest, the demon on your chest. For centuries, people across every culture have told stories of waking in the night, completely paralyzed, while a sinister figure, a hag, a demon, an alien, you name it, sits on their chest, crushing the air from their lungs. It feels viscerally real. You can see it, you can feel its weight, and the terror is absolute. This isn't just a nightmare, you are awake. Your eyes are open. You're just trapped inside a body that refuses to move. So, what malevolent entity is responsible for this universal horror? Well, science has an answer, and it's somehow both less and more terrifying. It's called sleep paralysis. This happens when your brain gets its wires crossed coming out of the dream state, specifically REM sleep. During REM, your brain releases chemicals that cause a temporary muscle paralysis called atonia. This is actually a feature, not a bug. It's what stops you from physically roundhouse kicking your lamp when you're dreaming about fighting off a horde of angry squirrels. The problem is, sometimes your consciousness reboots before the paralysis program has fully shut down. So you're awake, but your body is still in lockdown. Your voluntary muscles are offline. You try to scream, but you can't. You try to move, but you're pinned down by your own biology. The crushing weight on your chest. That's you consciously trying to control your diaphragm and chest muscles while they're still in their paralyzed REM state. And the demon? That's your brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, going into absolute panic mode. It senses you're awake, helpless, and struggling to breathe, so it does what it does best. It creates a reason for the fear. It dredges up a figure from your deepest anxieties and projects it right into the room with you. It's a hypnopompic hallucination, dream residue spilling over into reality. So, it's not a demon from the underworld. It's just your brain's security system panicking and creating a phantom menace to explain why the controls aren't responding. Thanks, brain, super helpful. Number 6 is the spooky swamp lanterns. For hundreds of years, if you were unlucky enough to be a traveler lost in a bog or marsh after dark, you might see it. A single, eerie flame flickering in the distance. This light, known as a will-o'-the-wisp, corpse candle, or ignis fatuus, which is just Latin for foolish fire, would seem to dance and bob just above the murky water. Folklore paints these lights as mischievous fairies or the souls of the damned, trying to lead weary travelers off the path and deeper into the swamp to their doom. They float without a source, retreat if you approach, and seem to possess a mind of their own. It's the perfect setup for a classic ghost story. Naturally, science had to come along and ruin the spooky fun with a perfectly logical, and frankly, kind of gross explanation. Swamps, bogs, and marshes are basically nature's giant compost bins. They're filled with tons of decaying organic matter, like dead plants and animals. As all this stuff rots away underwater, it releases gases, most notably methane and phosphine. Here's where the magic happens. Certain forms of phosphine have the neat little party trick of spontaneously igniting when they come into contact with oxygen. So, what people were seeing wasn't a tormented soul, but a bubble of flammable swamp gas bursting to the surface and catching fire. A tiny, ghostly, floating pocket of bog fumes having its moment in the spotlight. The reason it seems to dance is because it's a nearly weightless flame being pushed around by the slightest air currents over the water. And the reason it vanishes when you get close. The pressure wave created by your own movement is often enough to disturb the air and extinguish the delicate, low-temperature flame. So the ancient, terrifying spirits of the marsh are, in reality, flaming pockets of gas from rotting plants. It really deflates the whole, lured to my death by a ghost, narrative when the culprit is just a bit of combustible swamp funk. Number 5 is the living lightning ball. Imagine a massive thunderstorm is cracking and booming outside your house. You're watching from the safety of your living room when you see something impossible. A glowing, grapefruit-sized orb of light detaches from a lightning strike outside, floats casually through your closed window, drifts around the room for a few seconds like it's looking for something, and then vanishes with a faint pop and a smell of ozone. You'd probably question your sanity, and for a long time, so did the scientific community. This is ball lightning, and for centuries, reports of these bizarre, free-floating spheres of light were dismissed as optical illusions, retinal afterimages from a bright flash, or just straight-up tall tailies. The descriptions were too weird. They moved independently of the wind, sometimes against it. They could be red, orange, or blue, and they lasted for seconds, not milliseconds like a normal lightning flash. It sounded more like a paranormal event than a meteorological one, but the reports were too numerous and too consistent to ignore. While scientists still don't have a single, 100% confirmed explanation, the leading theory is brilliantly strange. It suggests that, when a powerful, conventional lightning bolt strikes the ground, the intense heat can vaporize silica minerals in the soil. This creates a puff of silicon vapor. This little cloud of hot, electrically charged silicon nanoparticles gets held together in a loose sphere and floats off into the air. As the silicon slowly oxidizes, which is a fancy way of saying it rusts in the air, it releases its stored energy as light and heat. You're essentially watching a floating ball of burning dirt. This model could even explain how it gets through windows, as the loose cloud of nanoparticles might be able to pass through small cracks or panes of glass. So no, it wasn't a tiny UFO or an elemental spirit. It was most likely a hot, angry ball of weaponized sand that decided to take a tour of your kitchen. Number 4 brings us to the monster of the deep. Back in 1997, the Cold War was over, but the vast network of underwater microphones the U.S. Navy had placed across the ocean to listen for enemy submarines was still active. One day, these hydrophones picked up a sound from the remote depths of the Pacific that was unlike anything ever recorded. It was a deep, powerful, ultra-low frequency noise that rose and fell in volume. It was so colossal that it was detected by sensors more than 5,000 kilometers apart. Scientists at NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, nicknamed it the bloop. The profile of the sound suggested it was made by a living creature. But for an animal to produce a sound that loud, it would have to be, to put it mildly, gigantic. Far, far larger than a blue whale, which is the largest and loudest animal known to exist. For over a decade, the mystery of the bloop fueled our collective imagination. Was it a long-lost prehistoric marine reptile? Some kind of colossal squid? Or, as many people on the internet hoped, was it the sound of H.P. Lovecraft's great old one, Cthulhu, stirring in his sunken city? The evidence was tantalizing. The origin point was even relatively close to the fictional coordinates of Arlae. Then, after years of listening, science delivered its verdict. As researchers got better at monitoring the Antarctic ice shelves with hydrophones, they began to notice a pattern. The sounds made by massive icebergs calving, that is, breaking off from glaciers, and then scraping against the seabed produced an acoustic signature that was a perfect match for the bloop. They were listening to icequakes. The sound wasn't a roar from a living throat, but the groan of a continent-sized piece of ice tearing itself apart. So the terrifying, ocean-shaking Leviathan was a very large, very grumpy iceberg. We traded a cool sea monster for a deeply troubling reminder of a warming planet. I think I liked it better when we thought it was a kraken. Number 3 is the town with a secret hum. Imagine you live in a perfectly normal place, except for one thing, there's a sound. A constant, low-pitched, droning hum that you can't escape. It's there when you wake up, it's there when you're trying to watch TV, and it's definitely there in the dead of night when you're trying to sleep. You ask your family, but they can't hear it. Some of your neighbors do, but most look at you like you've lost your mind. The sound is real to you, but untraceable, making you feel like you're the star of your own low-budget psychological thriller. This isn't fiction. It's a real phenomenon known simply as the hum, and it's been reported in specific locations all over the world, from Taos, New Mexico, to Bristol, England. Those who hear it, often called hummers, describe it as a maddening sound like a distant diesel truck idling forever just beyond the horizon. It causes headaches, nausea, sleep deprivation, and immense psychological distress. The mystery deepens because only a small percentage of people in any given area, usually around 2%, can perceive it. So, is it a secret government mind control experiment? Not quite. Science suggests the hum isn't one single thing, but a collection of mundane annoyances. In some locations, the source has been tracked down to specific industrial culprits. Massive cooling fans, high-pressure gas mains, or electrical transformers that all produce persistent, very low-frequency noise. The reason only some people are tortured by it comes down to the natural variation in human hearing. Some of us are just more sensitive to those ultra-low sound waves. In other cases, the hum might be a form of tinnitus, not the typical high-pitched ringing, but a low-frequency phantom sound generated by the brain itself. It could also be the cumulative drone of our modern world, the combined sound of distant traffic, industry, and infrastructure that most brains filter out as unimportant, but some just can't. So the town's haunting hum probably isn't a gateway to another dimension. You just have the superpower of being able to hear a single, annoying pipe 50 miles away. Number 2 is a feeling we've all had. You're alone in a quiet house, maybe reading a book or just scrolling on your phone. Suddenly, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. A cold, prickly wave washes over you. There's no sound, no movement, but you are utterly convinced of one thing: someone is watching you. It's a deeply primal, deeply unsettling feeling that bypasses logic and goes straight to your core. You check the locks, you peek through the curtains, nothing. But the feeling of being stared at by unseen eyes can linger for minutes, turning your own peaceful home into a place of hidden threats. For centuries, this sensation was attributed to a sixth sense, guardian angels, or, more ominously, the presence of a ghost. How else could you know, with such certainty, that you were being observed? The answer, according to neuroscience, is that your brain has a built-in gaze detection system, and it is incredibly powerful. Your brain has a whole neural network dedicated to processing where other people are looking. It's a critical survival tool we inherited from our ancestors. For them, being able to tell if a predator was staring at them from the bushes was the single most important piece of information they could have. This system is so vital that it's intentionally oversensitive. It works on a better safe than sorry principle. Evolution decided it's much better to get a false alarm and feel watched when you're alone than to miss the one time a saber-toothed tiger is actually watching you. So, when your brain receives ambiguous information, a floorboard creaks upstairs, a shadow moves in your peripheral vision, your hypervigilant gaze detection system can sometimes misfire. It can't pinpoint the source of the stimulus, so it defaults to the most urgent explanation. You're being watched by something you can't see. So no, a spirit isn't staring at you from the dark hallway. It's just your ancient lizard brain running its, "Am I about to be eaten?" software and getting a false positive. Your nervous system is haunted by the ghosts of predators that died out 10,000 years ago. And at number 1, we have the cornerstone of modern paranormal investigation, hearing ghosts in the static. You've seen it on every ghost hunting show. A team enters a supposedly haunted asylum, turns on a digital recorder or a spirit box, and asks questions into the empty air. "Is anyone here with us? What is your name?" Later during playback they hear it. Amidst the white noise, a faint, scratchy, disembodied voice seems to whisper a one-word answer: "Leave" or "Help." It's incredibly eerie, and for many, it's the smoking gun, definitive proof that spirits are trying to communicate. This phenomenon is called electronic voice phenomena, or EVP, but the scientific explanation is auditory pareidolia. Pareidolia is the extremely common psychological tendency to perceive meaningful patterns in random data. It's why you see faces in clouds, a man in the moon, or Jesus on a piece of toast. Our brains are pattern recognition machines on overdrive. We are so intensely wired to recognize human speech that our brain will work tirelessly to find it, even where it doesn't exist. White noise, radio static, and the hum of a fan are just chaotic, random sound waves. But when you are in a creepy setting, primed by suggestion, and actively listening for a voice, your brain goes into overdrive. It sifts through that ocean of random noise and latches onto any tiny fragment that vaguely resembles the rhythm or sound of a word. The spirit box, which rapidly scans through radio frequencies, is a perfect pareidolia-generating device. It throws out a constant stream of disconnected syllables and radio chatter, and our brain, in its desperate attempt to make sense of the chaos, stitches them together into what it wants to hear. So that ghostly voice wasn't a tormented soul reaching out from the great beyond. It was likely a fraction of a second of a commercial for car insurance, blended with static and interpreted by a brain that's fundamentally designed to hear voices in the noise. The calls aren't coming from the other side, they're coming from inside your own head. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.